This material is made available to you by or on behalf of the University of Melbourne under Section 113P of the Copyright Act 1968. It may be subject to copyright. For more information, visit the University Copyright website.
Theory, because what we are doing, for this lecture, we are not just doing a data analysis, but we are not just going to learn the game with mathematics or statistics. We are going to do a data analysis in property. So that's what we mainly do for. Thank you very much. For the first 3 weeks. That is, I just want you guys to get a general idea about the property market, the property sectors, to be familiar with some important property issues, and to get an idea what the theory or what the model behind the market or behind the reality. Okay, and so normally when we do data analysis or maybe a property data analysis, what we do is that we're going to find out, or we're going to think about what are the topics we are going to do. So are we going to do something in regard with price? Are we going to do some research or analysis in regard with the demand or supply or policy, or even the customer or the residents' living experience, certain things? And in that case, once we decide the general or the broad topic, then we do a briefing research to find out what are the background. Okay, so the background maybe what are the contemporary conditions in the area of interest. What is the historical activities in the areas, or related to the topic, or maybe what has happened in Australia internationally. I mean, not only in Australia, but also maybe in the U.S., in China, in Japan, in the UK, etc., or maybe in some African countries. So that is what we do, and what other research have been done for this topic. So that is what we are going to. We just want to find out the cutting edge boundary in that topic, so that we know what can we analysis, and what can we use to analysis. Then we have to narrow down our topic by finding a problem within the topic. Okay, so for example, if we are going to do something about price, then what's the problem related to price? Is that too high, or is it too low, or is it hard to predict it, or something else? So based on the problem, we can decide what are the theory or the hypothesis. So the house price is too high. Maybe a hypothesis would be, okay, increasing overseas students, or increasing international migration in Melbourne. So that's probably one of our hypotheses. And to deal with the hypothesis, then we need a theory to support that. So are we going to use, so in that case, for example, if we are going to find out whether whether the increasing immigration caused the house price increase in Melbourne. So what's the theory, what's the theoretical model we're going to choose? Or we're going to build up, we're going to build on for our own model, analysis model. Anyone knows? Yeah? You wanna have a try? So what's the name? Sorry, I forgot. Jackie or Ricky? Sorry. Yeah, hedonic model. Yeah, it would be, yeah, it's okay. However, maybe it's because this one we are talking about from a little bit from the macro perspective. So maybe we can use the fundamental model, right? So in that case, we are not just collect two data or price or the immigration number. We're going to think about what are the elements within the fundamental data, okay? And plus the immigration number. So, and that is our next step. So, theoretical model. In the theoretical model, I mean here, that's not in a broad context. That the theoretical model should be very specific. Okay? Then we're gonna identify the parameters or the variables within the model. How many model? What is the dependent variable? What are the independent variable? Or how many independent variables are we going to use to estimate the theoretical model? And after that, we should make sure whether we can find the proper data to represent each parameter or each variable we decide for the theoretical model. Okay? So that's pretty much what we are going to we will going to do for our theoretical model establishment. Then maybe we are going to estimate model or specify the model. So therefore first we have to test our data. So for example, for the house price, right? So initially we think, oh, probably we can use the house price index. However, after the data test, we think, oh, probably not, because the index cannot show the difference across the region. Then maybe we will not use the price index, but use the real house price or median house price, etc. And after the data processing, then we will pull the data into the regression model, or mainly regression, right? However, maybe there was some other analysis, non-parameters analysis as well. However, the regression model is the mainly method so far we use for mainly for the quantitative analysis. Yeah, so it's it's not just one direction. Okay, when we say the analysis, there are always the dual directions. So in that case, I received several emails inquiry on whether I should use this data or not. My answer is it's all up to you. Okay, it's based on your understanding and based on your finding, you make the final decision. In the data analysis, there is not exactly right or wrong thing. It's just proper or improper. Okay, so the proper, you use the proper data, then you produce the proper results. You produce the proper findings and generate the proper suggestion. Then in the other way is that probably you cannot provide the precise results or suggestion. However, for the purpose of this subject, it won't influence your final mark. Okay? So when we assess your work or assessment presentation or the final report, we will focus more on the process of your analysis. Of course, if you can also use the proper one, you got the high mark. Or if you couldn't, you probably get a relatively lower mark, but you still can prove that you got the you've gained the ability to do or to deliver a systematic data analysis. And once we estimate model, we got the results. We also do some tests for the model. What we do, we call this like model validation. So we will test whether the model is stable, whether the correlation coefficients is reliable, is significant, etc. And also if there was something wrong or the test is not good, maybe we will go back to the step before or even earlier. Then we will check. Okay, so are we using the correct estimation method, or do we find the correct model, or even do we identify the parameters in the proper way, etc. Okay, I mean, but we don't expect or require you do all the stuff for this subject. Okay, I mean, why I'm talking about this is just let you guys to have an idea what's the property or what the data analysis is. So that's what we normally do as a researcher or as an analyst in the property sectors. Okay. Finally, is that we are going to illustrate the model, because we are not just produce numbers, right? We produce we produce the relationship, or we produce the suggestion for the real world. We have to illustrate those numbers to the audience who do not have the, for example, mathematical background, or who do not have the property background. We're going to, it's kind of translation, is that we use our expertise to translate the numbers into the plain language, or into the language that the normal audience can understand. So in that case, this one, I mean, from the beginning to the middle, that's what we are going to, we expect you guys to have for your assignment 2. So the assignment 2 is you are going to find the topic, set up, identify a problem, and specify or identify your theoretical model, and tell us, or even more, you can tell us how you plan to specify the model. Okay, and from the data collection to the data test, that's the main content for assignment 3, the individual writing. So it's like you collect the data for your theoretical model, and then you do you sort the data, you clean the data, process the data, test data, then tell us how do you think the data you collected. So are you going to continue use those data, or are you going to change or swap some data or delete some, etc. Okay, that is assignment 3. So what is assignment 4? Yeah, all of them. Okay, so well, what was the word limit? I couldn't remember. It's 4,000 words, right? 3,000. Yeah, yes. So in that case, probably you can think about how you allocate your workload. I mean, and you may find out the first three assessment, it doesn't count a huge proportion of your total mark, right? It's only 40%. So that means we allowed you, or maybe you can allow yourself to make some mistakes in the first three assessments. And the most important thing, you should learn something from the first three assessments, and then you can all show them, integrate all what you learned over the semester and applied in the final report. Then I just use one of my research to illustrate the process. First, for example, problem statement. Okay, so what I did is that I did how does the market evaluate the retirement village. So that is my question or the problem. Is that the current situation in the retirement village market? We don't know how the market mechanism work. And in order to address this problem, the theoretical model or unchoose is the hedonic model. Then I think maybe to identify the theoretical model, probably there were 5 aspects I have to address. One is location, facility, structure of the unit, and the service provided by the village, and also the sale price for the village units. Then I will think about how can I identify or represent the parameters in each aspect. So for example, location, maybe I will use the distance to CBD. Okay, probably what I did for my research is that I just used the street direction based on the Google Map. And then for the structure, unit structure, probably I will use these 3 parameters: number of bedroom, number of bathroom, and number of garage. And also I think I use one is the private garden. And for the house price, because there so far, by that time there is no statistic or authorized statistic have been done for the return village price. So what I can find is only the listing price on the website. Okay, then I just use the listing price. So it's not a good choice. However, that's the best choice to my knowledge, where I can find the data to represent the price. Then what we will do, once we have already decided the data source or the data we are going to use, then we collect the data, and we processing the data. Then we analyze data, test the model, then presentation. And in today's lecture, probably we will just cover the following three aspects. First is the data collection, data process, and data presentation. So for data collection, I mean, what I want to highlight here is that there are major two methods to collect data. One is you collect the data by yourself. Okay, what we normally call is primary data. Is that there is no existing data published for use. Then you have to create your own data, probably through survey, through interviews, observation, experiment, etc. So that's one type of data. And then the second method we use is the second data type of data is a secondary data. So that way, what does this mean is that we are using others' data. So probably we use data published by the ABS. So the data is collected by the ABS department, or then we just use our data. So if I'm going to do the retirement village, yes?
I have a question for the secondary data.
Yes.
So we used ABS data, and then we calculated something else from that data. Would that be like still considered secondary data? So we used ABS's data in terms of
yes,
and then we calculated mathematically another column of that.
Yes, it's still secondary data. So I mean, how we define primary or secondary is that the originality of data, or we normally say the copyright. So if we using the data of which the copyright belongs to us, then that's the primary data. Otherwise, they are all secondary data. Okay, no matter. So even in my case, I'm collecting data manually, even though I'm using the secondary data. I'm not create a brand new one. Okay, so for example, in here, what's the data I should use? What's the method I can use to collect the price for retirement village? Primary or secondary? So just think about it. You know nothing. You know nothing about the retirement village. You just want to collect the price for retirement village. What kind of data you are going to use? Method you are going to use to collect the data? Actually, it's both, right? So, for example, for the primary data, maybe we can just collect data through the survey. For example, maybe we can sending out the questionnaire across the residents in the village, and ask them how much you spend for your retirement village units. And the credit or the advantages for the primary data is that they are accurate, okay? Because you just get the first-hand information, and again, it can be used for a broader topic, almost every topic. So long as you think, okay, I'm going to do this, then probably you can collect data by yourself. And also, it's confident in use, because the data is created by yourself, by ourselves. We know what the data is. We know what the information the data can reflect. So we know what's the how to use those data. So we think the data is reliable. However, on the other side, I mean, there was some disadvantage for using the primary data. The first one is time and money consuming. So it's like, for example, if you are going to sending all the questionnaire across the residents, then you need a lot of time, right? So you have to first you have to identify where are the return village located in maybe Victoria, New South Wales, or maybe even in Melbourne. And it costs a lot of time, and also probably you cannot handle the survey or the whole process by yourself. You have to hire somebody to do some job for you. For example, maybe collect the questionnaire or sending out the questionnaire, and then input or transform the questionnaire into the database, etc. So it's really need a lot of money, and then it required a high level of knowledge and skills. So it's like, for example, in the questionnaire, we don't normally we don't ask the question or the problem we try to find out in such a direct way. So probably if you just you went into the return village, or just ask the ladies, oh, how much you pay for your unit, they will say, oh, I don't remember, or they say, oh, I'm not sure. They will say, oh, why you ask me about this? Because so sometimes we will set a series of questions, and then probably try to find out the answer. For example, I did a survey to investigate the residents' perception against the return village living experience. So I'm not asking them whether you are happy or not living in the village. That's a totally sad story. Okay. So once you ask them in this, they will feel sad. Maybe I will ask, okay, how much. How often do you meet your family, or how many how many hours you spend on the activities, how many new friends you meet in the village, such things. So it's like we decompose the problem into different aspects, and then we ask them to address each aspect. Then we integrate them together to find a answer to the question. And the last one is the most important one, is the risk of ejection. It's like for doing the primary data, you cannot just do it. You have to get the ethics approval, which is you're gonna fill up your research plan, blah blah blah, and then sending to the authority, and then they will check your plan, and then that takes you may end up by then, and then even you got approval, you gonna contact with your potential responders, and then nearly 75% the response is no, I'm not interested. So it does consume a lot of time, all right, and energy, and so then probably the secondary data is the way we maybe we can collect. Well, I'm used for my research, okay. Because the research, what I'm applying is just a 1-year research project. I don't have that much time to just collect the data. So what I'm choosing is I'm using the really.com.au, which is a similar website as the realestate.com.au. However, that's kind of advertising website for property sales and however, this one is particularly designed for the retirement village or other retirement facilities. Then in the website, I can find this kind of information. Then I just collect those information manually. So, for example, the price. Where I collect is the listing price. The advantage of using secondary data is they are convenient, okay? Because there is existing data set for you to use. If you are using the ABS data, it's even more good because they have already done some of the data cleaning for you guys, right? So they got they all got the name for each attribute. Even they set up the subgroup for you, and they deal with the missing value, or they have already tried to make the consistency of the data. Even some data they delete some external effect, such as a seasonal effect or inflation effect, etc. Okay, and it saves time and money. It's also reliable if you are using some good institution data like ABS. However, the disadvantage is like they are less accurate, or less confident for use, because the data is not generated by yourself. Before you use it, you should know what the data is, how they collect data, and then you can make a judgment or make an assessment on whether the data can reflect the topic or the question or the parameter of interest accurately or not. Okay, and then some data they are just not existing. For example, the most the thing in the property sector is the housing stock. So there is no publication or data statistics to indicate the volume of housing stock. Okay, what we use for the research is that either we use the census, where they count the number of dwelling every 5 years, and then we probably can combine with the building approval or the new building completions to generate a housing stock. For each time period. Then we just once we find the data source, then we collect the original data. However, normally we cannot just use that as let the data stay where they used to be. We're going to sort the data. We should manage data. One important is that we put the data into the column and the row. Normally, each column indicates the attributes in your data set. For example, in my case, is that that's just part. I use them as an example, 1, 2, 3, 9 attributes in my data set. Well, 3 of them are text, which are the qualitative data. Qualitative data. And the other are the numbers. They are quantitative data. And each row indicates each sample. For example, this row just indicates how a unit may be in Melbourne, or sorry, not Melbourne, in here, in are tuna, right? And those are the samples we collected from Aspendale Gardens, etc. Okay, this is normally the way we create our data set. Why we have to do this is that it gives us easiest way to do the first step, browsing the data. To first is I think that's the sort. Yeah, to sort data. Then maybe I just show in the Excel. So for example, that's the data we collected, okay, and then we put them into the Excel sheet. Then the first thing we can do is that it's already been sorted. However, is that we just want to browsing the data, or just to get a quick idea about the data set. Then one function we can use in data in Excel is if you click data and sort. Oops, sorry, you're gonna choose the range. Then you can choose the attribute you want to sort it. For example, here I want to sort it the data based on their return mileage type. Okay, then I just click return mileage. Yeah, based on value, based on A to Z. Then we can see all the data they are sorted according to their types, their village type. So they are, for example, they are apartment, house, service, villa, etc. Okay, and also we can sort them according to the price, maybe from smallest to the largest. Then we can have a look. We could. Can you see the screen, or you want to make it a little bit bigger? Better? Yeah. So in that case, we know our. Oops. We can find out the lowest one, the lowest value, the highest value, etc. So that's gives you way to quickly browse your data. So here I just for the convenience I just use a very small amount of data. Actually, for my actual research, because I've got hundreds, 600. I think 600. Yeah, over 682 pieces of data, and that is after the processing. Because originally probably I collected like nearly 1,000 pieces of data. Then if you deal with a huge amount of data, maybe you have to use those functions to help you get a quick idea about what the data set is. And one thing I just forgot to mention is that you gotta give a proper title for each of the attributes. So the attributes should be clear and should be easy to understand, and should not be cause any confusion. So when I just did start my research, sometimes I prefer to use the initial or just use the capital letters to indicate a data. However, in that case, all my data will like S, V, S, P, and after maybe 2 or 3 months, if I go back or recall those data sets, I couldn't remember what the S is or what the V is. Okay, just think about the title or the name for each attributes, And if you have already used some ABS data, you can find the name is very complicated. However, they are very clear. They tell you exactly what the data is. But for your research, maybe you can change the name. So, for example, I can remember that for the building approval, maybe in the ABS data, they call it like a number of building approval for houses in New South Wales, like a type dividing or type or all types. So for that case, you don't have to use that complex name because maybe you just have one piece of data indicate the building approval. So you just call building approval. However, you give some explanation in your data descriptions, in the text. Okay, so that's one thing what we do while we get a quick browse for data. The second function what we use is like the filter. So if we again go to data and the filter, then we just click filter, then we can find some reverse arrow on each column. Then by just click on the arrow, then you can select what are the data or the features or the intervals you're going to filter. Like if we just want, so the thing is that although is that the filter, the ticked one is the one you want to keep. If you don't want those ones, maybe you can do this. If you just want to keep just want to have a look, what are the return village worth at $305,000? Probably you can just take this column, and then it will give you the piece of data. And again, you can set a range. For example, here there are greater than, less than, etc. Okay, so probably you can see, okay, it's greater than, we see maybe $200,000, and less than $500,000. Then it gives you all the pieces. They are where whose price sitting in that range. So why we use the sort and filter is that it gives you a way to create your subgroups. Okay. So, for example, again, in this sample, because the data is not that many, okay, if there were 300 or even 500 pieces of data, then probably you will set up some interval to show some subgroups. And also, maybe it's because your research question is like, okay, I just want to see whether my model is consistent across the region. For example, in this case, the data, they are all collected from all the suburbs in Victoria, right? And then we use the data to estimate a model. However, we are not sure whether the model applied in each suburb. Then maybe we're gonna estimate the model again based on the suburb information. Then we can create some subgroups for each suburb and rerun the models. Then we can compare the estimated results, or even we just compare the data for each suburb and with the aggregate information. Here in this example, I create the suburb based on the type of retirement village units, like here, apartment, villa, house, service, apartment. So based on the information of the suburb, what we can find. What can we find from here? So first, we can find most of the retirement village units. They are built in the type or as an apartment or as a villa, right? Actually, in the observation or in this sample. And also, if we look into the price, maybe the village built in as a house or service apartment are cheaper than the other two subgroups. Then we're going to find why, what the reason cause this. Okay, so it's like it is also a way how you expand your content. So probably if your research, you just estimate a model and then estimate the model, then you think, okay, I don't know how to write or how to illustrate the model. So this probably can give you a way how you illustrate the model. So maybe you can comparing the model across different type or across different subgroups. So then the next is the So in some cases, if you are just collect data manually, and in the data sets, you will find maybe there were some data they don't have any values, so like missing values. Okay, and how can we find out whether the data set has any missing value? The quickest way is also we use the filter function, and oops, is it? Oh, sorry, I don't think it's filter function. Oh, sorry, is use the formulating function. Format. Then we choose the highlight. Format table. Conditional formatting. Highlight cell rules. So it's like then if we click text that, I couldn't find this. Sorry. Highlighting. Modules. Sorry. And then sales value, and then indicate blank. Here, blanks. And then we set up, maybe we just set up the fill as orange. Then, you should select the range first, and then go to applies the range in the whole table, and then it can all the missing value can be indicated automatically by using the function which is called conditional formatting. Okay, and then that's a way how we can find the missing value, and also for example, in this case here, and how can we deal with those missing values? First is the easiest way is we do nothing, or we just delete them. However, it depends on the size of a sample. If we have a really big size of sample, maybe you can just delete or just do nothing about the missing values. And another way is that we imputate the missing value with the average. So like just using the mean or using the median to replace all the missing values. And even we can use the regression. It's like we estimate the relationship between the data once and then predict the missing value based on the other attributes. And again, the most complicated one is the multiple imputation, is that we run this step several times. And then we got average or median value for the missing values. Okay, and I mean, they are just the methods, and you're gonna make your decision which one suits you based on the data you have. And then there again in the data you may also find some extreme values, or you may find some bad values. For example, in this case, we find I mean, these two price is so low compared with the others. This one is only 100, because however the other they are all 300 and over. So first, we should find out what's the reason for these extreme values. Are they bad values? So it's the way how we can make a decision is that we go back to the original data source and see how these two values comes out. And in my case, I found these two, they are not just selling the price, they are just the entry fees. It's like you pay a certain amount of money as a deposit, then you can live in, and then you pay your living fees monthly or annually while you're living. And that money is just sitting, it's kind of like a bond when you rent a house. Okay, so this not actually the sold or the listing price. That's just the price for the entry fees. So in that case, that's probably not the bad value. It's not caused by some incorrect information. We probably so what they are maybe the extreme values. So then, in that case, what we do for the extreme values, normally we will do the logarithm transformation for the extreme values. So the logarithm, natural logarithm, is a number of logarithm to the base of the mathematic content. So this is a very famous number in mathematics, and I mean, here I won't explain much about it. You just should know it's roughly equals 2.72, blah, blah, blah. It's an unlimited number. And what is the natural logarithm is that if we see the is n power equals m, then the natural log result of m equals n. So in that case, the natural logarithm is kind of the calculate the power of a number which based on based on e. So for example, we know is 0 power equals 1. Okay, in that case, ln 1 would be equals 0. Okay, so what we can use for the natural logarithm transformation is that if we can calculate here in this case, is that we type equal ln bracket, then select the cell we want to transform, and then enter. It gives us the logarithm value of the original value. Okay, and then we can do the same for the rest of the cell. So we can just copy. If you're gonna copy the equations in the Excel side, you got two ways. One is just drag them to the cell you want to calculate, and the other way is that you just copy and select all the cell you want to show, and then paste. You just copy the equation to the cell. So, okay, probably we just have maybe 5 minutes break, then we come back, because I'm thinking maybe we got some stuff to talk.
Question?
Yeah.
I just confused the attributes and the subgroup, the concept of attribute and subgroup.
Yes.
So you mean the this row is the all of the
They are the color. They are the row.
so all of this column is the
Attributes.
attributes.
So when I say attributes is within the context of data set.
Yes.
So within the data sets, you not only maybe you can have one piece of data,
Yeah.
or actually you have two and more data.
Yeah.
So each attribute means each data,
Yes.
each single data.
Yes.
Yeah.
But how about this? I find the figure.
What's
Yeah.
this?
This is the crime rate.
Oh, yeah.
And the Victoria. So we can define that this column is the all of the attributes.
Yes. Yes.
But how about the offense subgroup or offense subdivision?
So it's again, it's like you how do you set up your data set?
Yes.
So if your data set is about different type of offense,
Yes.
then where is it?
This is the
This one.
Yeah.
Offense subdivision, right? Yeah. So in that case, this will be each color. So
Yeah.
it's like home. They are all the same.
Yeah, they're all the same. Yeah, I just screenshot the
Yeah.
sort of.
So it's like, for example, this one will be steel or violence
Yes.
or will
Yeah.
something. So if you decide that your data set is like this,
Yes.
so however, if you decide your data set is like, I'm not sure, are you going to, what's this? Is so in that case, this one probably will be the subgroups.
Yeah.
So
It
it's
depends on how you
Yeah, exactly. It's not
order it. Or,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you put in the column or row, it
yeah.
could be the subgroup or attributes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Another question is the first of this class. Okay, start off this class. So, what do you mean this process and this process? This is the Hydronic model, and this is the
This is just a
theoretic model.
No, I mean this is just to show you to show the process in a general way.
Okay.
And this are probably I didn't see it clearly. This is just an example.
Yeah.
To illustrate this
Yes.
process.
Yeah.
So here is where we are now.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
mostly we are here.
Yes.
Right? We have already decided the data.
Yeah.
Right. And we haven't done the rest.
Okay.
And that's what we are going to do.
Yeah.
In the following weeks.
Okay, so Hydronic model and the fundamental model. So these two is the types of the theoretic model. Theoretic model
Yeah.
is the broad concept. It's the broad concept.
Yes. Yes.
So it can be like the just include many other models.
No, I mean here. So for example, here we are using Hydronic model, right?
Yeah,
So it's like here,
like this.
like this,
Like this process, yeah.
So that's where we are here.
Yeah.
And then based on here, we know the model is like a
Yeah.
facility, blah blah blah.
Yes, I
And
see.
then for the theoretical model,
Yeah.
we have a clear definition or clear identification for each of the, concept or aspects.
Yeah.
So here is in the theoretical model,
Yeah.
you are not saying, okay, we are using location. You're gonna say, what is the location? How you represent, or how
Okay.
you quantify.
So go through the theoretical
Yeah.
model.
So the theoretical model
define
would
the
be
location,
Yeah,
the
would be a specific model.
Oh, okay.
So here we
Yeah, I
should
see.
Yes.
And the last request is
Yeah.
is that I just upload. I'm very stupid. I just upload my personal individual assignment, but I forgot to upload the data. I
it's
just want
okay,
to
it's okay.
re-upload or just send an email to you.
Yeah, just send me.
Send
Did
it.
you mention
Yeah.
mention your
This
link?
is yesterday. Yesterday.
Yeah, you consider about
yeah.
the submission. That's okay.
Yes.
Did you mention the linkage or anything?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Then.
It's this is the
The reference.
the reference. But the best way is that I just resend the email, include this assignment and the data to you.
No, you
Okay?
don't have to. You don't have to. I mean,
Really?
it's alright. I mean, mainly.
I just afraid this.
No, it won't.
Maybe
it
you
won't.
can.
It won't.
Yeah, it's this one. Yeah, you can download it. This data.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's alright. Yeah, I mean, again, as I mentioned, is like the assessment will focus on how you present the data.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as like you present is, so it's like how you make the audience and the readers
Yeah.
feel your data is reliable.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
it. That's the co-assessment for assignment 1.
Yes.
Okay. Even without see the original data.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I just got one question. So when we do this assignment, because we
Which
need
one?
to, the assignment 2, assignment 3, and
The following,
first one,
yeah.
So because we need to collect data, so how many data, like these things, gonna be proper for this assignment, and do we need to?
I couldn't give
Okay.
exact
So
answer.
for
It's
example,
yeah.
Yeah, because me and my team member, we're thinking to do the student accommodation.
Yeah, you sent me the email, did you?
No.
No, not you. Oh, I
So
sent
maybe somebody
someone.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but we don't really know where, which website is gonna be.
Yeah, that's the
reliable.
problem. I think that the way I'm reply to the student is that so far, by my knowledge, I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I got-
The only way is that what I did for the return village. You're gonna go maybe even more complicated than that. It's like you go to the university website.
Yeah.
So the university, if they have their own student accommodation, right?
Yeah, so
then
for example,
it's really hard.
So far I got one website, but that one only got the current data. So what is listing on that website?
Yeah, that's okay.
But the thing is, I can't go back forward to say, like, for example, what is what's listed, what's served.
No, that's okay. That's what I did for the return village.
So I just got as many as that I could, and that's it. So
Yeah, the only concern is that how do you define your student accommodation in your research?
yeah, because it's different type of.
Yeah, so I mean, even for example, just in the residential apartment.
Yes, you got.
Yeah, how you define that? I mean, I think maybe you're going to find, because if in that way, I mean, there's nothing too different from the ordinary renting, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, rather than probably if from my perspective, if you are talking about the student accommodation, I think maybe is there some accommodation related to the university. Like I'm not sure. I think Melbourne University has their own student accommodation.
Yeah, and also so we could narrow down.
Yeah, I think maybe that's the way you can separate the data from other ones.
Yeah, so we could narrow down our data to say we just want to test this particular kind of.
And then what's the problem? As I mentioned, so that's the initial. What are you going to find out for the student accommodation?
Like how they give the price, like what influence the different price between. Like for example, if we're looking at the uni lodge.
Yep.
Yeah. So they have different places, different. So so the price must be different. So why the price is different? Because of the number of bedrooms, or how, like, the distance from the student accommodation to the university or to the transport.
No, I mean the thing is that in that case, I think probably you should highlight one or two elements.
Yeah.
Which can different or distinguish the student accommodation from the ordinary.
Okay.
Or maybe you will say, I'm not sure. It's like maybe you will define it after you estimate the model. You will find, okay, normally maybe number of bedroom is the big contributor to the ordinary house price. However, student accommodation is maybe number of bathroom, right? So there's something like that. So it's like anyway, if you can find the data, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. And I mean, again, it depends on the parameter. So if you are doing like 8 parameter, at least you're gonna collect maybe 50 or 100 samples. Otherwise, the model is not that accurate. Huh?
Yeah.
So
just a quick question. So how do you, because this is in Chinese, so how do you like select the blank one?
Sorry?
你怎么选出那个空白的？
Oh yeah, you just go to home, 条件格式，然后突出单元格规则，然后
中文搜 different。
yeah， 然后你这有空白和控制，然后你申请。You gotta set up the field.
Okay.
The first one, and then go to the others.
And then.
No, this one blank, and then you choose the format. And maybe 10. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Thanks.
No worries. Okay, I think maybe we can make a start. So probably we can move on. Where are we? Okay, I mean, what we just talk about is how we prepare the data. So all the data preparation is that we set up a clear and easy unidentified database, give the names, and fill in all the values of each data. And then we browsing the data and think about whether we can divide the data set into several subgroups. And then we will see whether there is any missing values, extreme values, or bad values. If there is one, how can we deal with those problems of the bad values and the missing values? And then after that's normally we call this data cleaning or clean data. Okay, so that's what we prepare or what we do before we try to measure the data or try to get the key features of the data. So in the next process or next step is that we doing some statistics for data to find out the key features of data. So for example, I mean, if we are going to describe a person, all right, so we will have some key features. So for example, you don't know the person, normally we will see, okay, the height, how high the person is. What's are they men or women by the gender, right? The weight, or the colors of eyes, the colors of hairs, etc. I mean, that's the key feature. Based on those key features, we can roughly depict the person you describe. And similarly, we want to use those. Similarly, those statistics are the key features of data that based on those statistics, or normally we call them descriptive statistics. Based on those values, we can depict aggregate picture of the data. Okay, so first one we normally use is average. What is the average level of data? Okay, and for the average, we have 3 types. One is the most popular one, mean. So that is just the mathematical average of the values. So it's like, and this can only be applied for the numerical or quantitative data. It's like you sum all the values together and then divide it by the number of data. For example, in this case, we just use, I don't have to show them in the Excel, right? So it's like you just type average, select the range of the data, then enter, and then it gives you $339, blah, blah. The second type is the media. So media is the value sitting in the middle. So it's like that's the, so for example, in the mean value, the value may not be contained in the data, right? So there is no data which equals to 379. However, the media is that the value that separates the data into halves, into 2 even halves. So those ones are the lower half, and those ones are the higher half. So in this case, this is the 350,000. So that's when I say half, that means the number of data. So it's like within this sample there are samples whose value are lower than 300, lower than the median value, and there are 8 values or 8 samples whose value are greater than the median value. That's the median. And then there is the third type of to indicate the average is the mode. So where mode indicates the most the value that occurring the most. So for example here, 490,000. So which there are 3 pieces of data having this value. So that's this indicates the value that occurs most frequently in the sample. And also we will have the maximum and the minimum. So which is just simply takes type max bracket the and then choose the data range and minimum. So it shows you the lowest and the highest value. So these 3, average, median, and minimum, just show you the ceiling, the bottom, and the middle. In that case, you will have a general idea about the scale of your data. Okay, so and then once we set the bottom, once we set the bottom, and once we set the middle, how the data move around this ridge or around this skip, then we will use so it's like a spread range. We use variance and the standard deviation to show the key features of that data. It shows how the data fluctuate within the range we just set up. So it's like a maximum, bottom, minimum, and then we know where is the middle is. Then we know, okay, those data will fluctuate within this range. Okay, and how much or what's the extent they fluctuate within this range? We gonna calculate the variance and the standard deviation. So the variance, how we calculate the variance is that, for example, in this case we calculate the variance of the price. It equals the value of each sample minus the mean, minus the average, and then square. So in this sample, we got 19 different square. Then we add all the different square together, and then divide by 19, the number of the sample. Then we got this number. That's the variance. So here this indicates the number of the sample, and this indicates the value of a single sample. This is the average value of the sample. So then we got the variance. So in the Excel, I'm not sure whether I have done this, but it's just simply type equal var. So there is 2 types. One is population, one is for sample. Then probably we can choose the sample one, and then we select the range, and then it gives us the variance. That's the variance. Then we will have the deviation, standard deviation. So for example, that we have in our sample, we have these 4 points or 4 values. And then we can calculate the average value is at this level, okay? Then we can calculate the distance of each value away from the average value, which are indicated by sigma 1, sigma 2, sigma 3, and 4. And if we calculate the variance, is that we sum all the difference square together and divide by the number of sample. So that is the variance. And how can we calculate the standard deviation? That is the square root of variance, which here is just calculate. It's hard to show. So where here is $128.95 dollars. So it shows how much the data fluctuate, or how much the extent the data fluctuate around the mean value. So the smaller standard deviation indicates the data or the value of that data is stable. And the higher standard deviation means the data is more fluctuate. So that means it's a little bit hard to be predicted. I think we don't have the one bad value. Then we have another statistic is the frequency and probability. So it's like a frequency is a number of occurrence of observation or of a value. For example, if we want to calculate the frequency of each type of retirement village, for example here, normally what we do, we use the function of COUNTIF. So it's like equals COUNTIF. Then we choose the range, so village type, and then we type the criteria. Where here is like we count the cell which has the text with a house. It's 1. So it's like we got house, we got villa, apartment, then service apartment. Okay, so similarly, we can do the similar thing for the rest of the cell. So why I type this? Sorry. So why I type this dollar symbol here is that I just want to, when you copy the cell or copy the function into other cells, if you type a dollar symbol in the left-hand side of the cell, then you just lock the movement along the horizon direction. So it's like if you type you have this symbol, the cell will not move along the horizon direction. So it's like you see the cell B never change. Okay, so they are all cell B, where indicates the type of village. All right, and then what we did, we just changed the critical value, where is here villa. This villa. All right, and here is the apartment. And the last one is serviced apartment. What? Serviced apartment. Okay. So, I mean, while you count some text in the cell, I think the best way is that you copy the and then paste in the critical value. Otherwise, if you type incorrectly, I mean, here won't show you the correct answer. Okay. So in that case, we got that is the frequency. Okay, so it's like within this sample there are like one service apartment, one house, 10 villas, and 7 apartments. So this is how we generate the frequency, and then based another statistics related to frequency is the probability. It's like the probability is a measure indicating the likelihood of occurrence of observation. So actually, here is maybe not exactly the example. Where I see this is like we will just use the frequency divided by. Sorry, if we go back to the sample. We know there are 19, so maybe try to total number. So we just count. Oh, sorry. If you're gonna count the text, you're gonna use the function counter. So we know the total number is 19. All right, then we will see, okay, what's the proportion of each type of return village in the sample. Okay, then we use the cell of frequency or count divide by the total number of the sample, where again we don't want the total number sample move. Then we have the value here. Then we can reset the format. Where is the percentage? Then we just drag down through to the right. Then it gives us the proportion. Okay, so if the sample we choose can perfectly or can accurately represent the population, then we can use this one as a probability. That means, okay, the probability of villa return weightage is about 52%. That means, okay, if we choose 100, randomly choose 100 return weightage across Victoria, there will be 52 or 53 are built in the type of villa. So that's the probability. Okay, and then once we know the mean, the standard deviation, the probability, the other terminology or concept we will use in statistics is normal distribution. Well, normal distribution is like a probability distribution that is symmetric about the mean representing random variables. So, for example, if we if we select data. So if we just choose we show the sample in a column chart, right? So we can find the probability distribution of the retirement weightage type is in this type. Okay, I mean that is I'm not sure, it's a little bit skewed because this is very high, and then this is, if we connect it with a curve, we will find the area from of the right hand side is greater than the left hand side. So, however, in the normal distribution, is that we assume, or not we assume, they defined the normal distribution is that they are systematic distribution. It's like if we, in this case, the mean is 0, and then if we divide, we cut the distribution according to the mean, and we can find the area, or the left area is equal to the right hand side area. Okay, and this indicates the probability where the events gonna occurs. For example, in this case, if we see what is the property of 0.2, okay, then we will find that 0.2 is here, and then it located in this area. It's roughly it's bigger than 65%. And how about -2? Is -2 is here, and the area of -2 is just located maybe in this one, located in the area with the green color, and the proportion of these two is about 1 minus 95% is 5%. So the probability of -2 or of 2 is less than 5%. So here the probability, if we describe the probability in another terminology is kind of significance, which we always use that in the following test, either test the model, t-test, pi-test, etc. We will calculate a value and see whether the value sitting within this area, that's the confidence or the significance area, or in this area. If the value in this area, then we accept the null hypothesis. If not, we reject the null hypothesis. So that's how we apply the normal distribution widely in the statistics. However, today we are not going to discuss this deeply. How can we calculate, or how can we test whether the data is follow normal distribution? The simplest one is a histogram. The histogram is quite similarly as what we just did. So here, it's quite similarly what we did here. Is that we set up, or we set up the whole data sample into several subgroups, and then we count the frequency or the number of the data in each subgroups, and then we show the frequency with the column bar, or where in the Excel, or not in Excel, in statistic, we call this a histogram. So if we go to histogram here. If we go, for example, if we are going to calculate the histogram or to check whether the price is follow the normal distribution, then first we have set up a bin, or we have to set up subgroups. So where what Anne did is that first we calculate the average value, where in this case is we choose average, and then we choose the range. So the average value is 319, right? And then we calculate the standard deviation. Again, we tap standard deviation, and then choose the data range. So that's average. That's standard deviation. Then maybe here we just use 5 subgroups. So where the mean maybe sitting in the middle, and then we calculate this one by using the mean value. What's that? Yeah. Okay. Then we set up like this one. So that's the mean, and then we set up this one as -1, 1, and 2. Maybe not. And the highest what's that? The maximum of the subgroups is the highest value, right? Not B. That's a B. And the lowest value is for the last subgroup. Where is B? B2. And then we can calculate the middle interval is that the mean value minus plus one standard or minus one standard deviation. So where we use the mean plus minus 1 times the standard deviation to calculate. So in that case, we have 5 subgroups, where in the histogram we call them bin. I don't know why. And then we go to data, and go to the data analysis. If you don't have that, you can go to option and add in. Then you can choose analyze to pack. And go. You choose analyze to pack. Okay. Then you can find the data analysis function. Then you click on the data analysis function, choose histogram. Then you can choose the input range, where is the price. And then you choose the bin range, where is the subgroup you just calculated. And then you can select whether the output, where the range includes the label or not. In this case, we do not include the labels. Then we can set up the output range, where probably we will show them here. Then, okay, it then gives you the results of the histogram, and then you can calculate a char bar or not char bar, sorry, the column bar, the column chart or the bar chart, based on the histogram, and see whether it follows the normal distribution. Apparently, this data does not follow the normal distribution. Right? And so that's basic. That's the basic statistics we will use while we do the data process. And based on those statistics, we can show the key features of the data. Because just imagine you got the bottom, you got the top, you got the middle, you got the fluctuant, and based on the histogram, you know what is the shape of that kind of fluctuant. Is that in the normal distribution way, right? So are they fluctuate in this way, or maybe they have a little bit skewed distribution? So in that case, we can grab a general picture of the data you are using. Okay, then we are going to, sorry. That's another thing is that what we just talked about is for single piece of data. And then we are also want to show maybe some relationship between pairwise data, or maybe two pieces of data. It's like we use the correlation and also the correlation matrix, where the correlation is calculated in this way, whereas we normally use rho indicate the correlation, whereas covariance xy divided by the standard deviation of the two variables. Where in the Excel, we can type the function Coral and then choose the data set we are going to use. One here in distance, we use price and the distance. Then it gives us the correlation is minus 0.4. However, the correlation, they just show a very rough relationship between these two series data. It doesn't mean anything, okay? It doesn't mean, it just show maybe based on the existing values, we know these two data, they have a positive or negative relationship or no relationship. However, it doesn't mean, okay, price is negatively influenced by the distance to CBD. It doesn't show the causal relationship. It just shows, okay, there was certain relationship. It's not an accurate estimate. And also, on top of the correlation, we can also calculate the correlation matrix also under the data analysis function. We can generate the parallels correlation of all the data here. We can calculate this. Once we done these statistics, the most important part, I think, is the presentation. Is that how can you use your expertise in property and in mathematics, etc., to interpret these key features? Or what are the features you are going to highlight? Or maybe for some features, you may not spend too much time to explain. Because, for example, in my research, is like we got a lot of data in different states and have many attributes. In that case, we got a lot of statistics. So how can I describe this data? Again, it depends on your case. However, that's the rules or tips are applied in my data analysis. Just to give you as an example, all right? So it's like you may not, according to my tips or according to my habit. However, what I do is that I normally start from the aggregate. Okay, so here in this case, I will talk about the I will talk about the sample in total, and then what are the proportion in each state, and also the location of the average location of each subgroup or of each sample. That's subgroups. That gives you a general idea of the aggregate of the data. And then I will choose some important or demonstrate some highlights. So here, in my case, I'm not talking about the price because I don't think the price is the key feature. All the highlights I want to demonstrate. What I do is that I highlight what is the most observed facility and the least observed facility, and also some facilities which may surprise or which may conflict against our normal understanding. For example, here we see the security facility is only 50%. Is that okay? Not too many villages have that kind of security facilities. And then maybe I will briefing the rest of the statistics. So it just give a very brief, not giving too deep. And then that's just talking about the numbers. Okay, we produce a amount of numbers, and then we summarize and demonstrate some numbers, and then we will move one step further, is to explain the numbers or illustrate the numbers. Okay, what number tells us not only just the 50% of security facility, right? So maybe we can tell a story based on our knowledge or based on the background information we found. So here I said, okay, maybe it shows a different living style in different states. Okay, so that's, I mean, this 4 steps is tips or the habits where I start to organize my data description. So it's like the aggregate data, some key issues, and briefing the rest, and then give an illustration. Okay, and in today's tutorial, we will practice this ability and skills. Okay, thank you very much for your attending. See you soon.
I think that's wrong. It should not be B2. It should be.
Is that right? It should be S. The S is yeah, maybe I made some mistakes. However, I mean, you don't have to see the calculation I give here. I mean, no. That's wrong. I mean, I'm not sure. What's the maybe just because I'm gonna upload this example. I did some modification. Some that's correct. However, I mean, this sample just gives you what we will do based on the data. Yeah, and then you can do some practice. So, and those examples maybe just give you an idea of what it might be look like. It's a look like.
Okay, that's curious.
Yeah. That's probably a mistake.
Excuse me. I will wait there, okay, simply at copy's office.
Oh, yes.
I will
Okay.
wait.
Oh, yeah, sure. Do that.
I've just sent you an email. I am having an assignment for another subject called Advanced Property Analysis. And in that assignment, I am focusing on the efficiency and inefficiencies of property market with the retirement villages on property.
Really?
So I was wondering if I can see your research. I think it would really help me.
Yes.
I sent an email. So
Okay, I will reply you.
Like
because
it's published somewhere.
Yeah, I can send you two papers that one paper published in the return village.
That would be a huge help.
No worries,
I need
do
to.
it. You are doing our return village. You found it very interesting, right?
It is very interesting.
Yeah.
And very lucrative too.
Yeah.
Like the demographics getting old.
Actually, I'm doing the, but I couldn't continue the project because